The video that you're about to watch is an excerpt from a live webinar. If you enjoy the contents of this video, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. First, to put love and compassion in perspective with the energy healing process. We engage in energy healing because it supports the ability to sustain life. And sustaining life in all parts of the universe is overseen by the universal function of Dharma. And Dharma stands on the four pillars, four legs. Dharma, so it means this Sanskrit term Dharma means that which sustains the universe. And it stands on four pillars: truth, compassion, purity, and the ability to let go. Clearly, compassion is part of that story. And that's one of the reasons why we're looking at it. We spend a lot of time looking at truth because truth is of the four pillars of Dharma at this time in creation. The way the laws of nature are structured for us, truth is the one leg which is consistently stable. That means that no matter how inconvenient or unwanted the truth may be, whenever it comes, it brings benefit. It supports the evolutionary process. If it's really true, really rooted in truth with a capital T, truth will always be a benefit. It will always help. And the thing about truth is that it's very stable, right? The truth is the truth. And so there's not a lot of leeway in there, you know. But the thing about healing is that we need to make changes. The whole principle of healing is something's going on, it's not okay, and it needs to change. And so that's why we're looking at compassion today as this element that plays into the energy healing process, because compassion catalyzes or starts to activate that process of change. The truth just stays the same. It's just like, I'm the truth. But then the compassion comes and it's like, yeah, but you know, like, you know, with love for the world and with love for all, we need to do something here to promote some positive changes and transformations. So this is the role of compassion. And like these three legs, compassion, orderliness, and being able to let go, unlike truth, which is good to any amount, any degree, in any situation, any circumstance, and any amount is always good. These three, they have to be regulated a bit. They have to be as if anchored to the leg of truth, like a splint, in order that we don't fall into either excess or deficiency, excess. We don't want to fall into either excess or deficiency with these three. With truth, it doesn't matter. Even a little teeny drop of truth brings some good, right? But here with these three values, compassion, purity, and letting go, it's possible to get out of balance. And of course, ill health is essentially a reflection of being out of balance in some way or another. So we need to talk about balance for a moment as well. And the first point is that the home of all the laws of nature, the home of the source of creation, is a field of absolute balance, supersymmetry, perfect balance. But it rises up into expressions in this material world, and it grows by pushing the edges. It grows and expands into and as this material world. And if the boundaries and the edges didn't get pushed, there wouldn't be any growth. So we have a kind of something that looks like a paradox, at least to me. At first it looks, and this is why I love being with you guys, because I'll find these paradoxes and I'll think, well, you know, when we have the webinar, we'll bring up the paradox, will come forward, and then we'll get a chance to explore it, you know, to dissect it a little bit and see what's there. So This is why I bring this to you, because it was right there at the forefront of my awareness even earlier today. That if the system goes out of balance, that causes illness. But that's not, I would say, we can describe if we want to dissect it just a little more carefully, the illness comes up as a byproduct of the physical form becoming overwhelmed by excess or deficiency, by an experience that's either too much or too little. Physiology becomes overwhelmed. And wherever the physiology becomes overwhelmed, if it's the circulatory system or the eyes or we don't know, something else, the skin or whatever area, the nervous system, whichever area feels overwhelmed, that's the area that possesses the greatest potential to come into a more absolute alignment with the divine, with being. So we need to look at that. Whatever area feels overwhelmed is the area that is next in line for the evolutionary change. And whatever area becomes overwhelmed will be the area that falls down and that tells you, oh, I don't feel okay, I'm not happy. There are correlations between the different parts of the body and the different aspects or areas of one's personality in the field of consciousness. So we can, it's possible to like follow back, like to infer from the part of the body that's falling ill, like what is the part of consciousness that needs to be handled or dealt with. And in energy healing, we go there. We look to the area of the personality. We look to whatever is that area that has essentially lost contact or connection with wholeness, is suffering from an experience of separation, essentially. In a lot of New Age circles, the credit for losing connection with wholeness is given to the ego. And it's always defined, oh, it's the ego that's, that sets up boundaries and separates us from the creator or from our highest potential or something like that. But they're always facets. They're always facets. And I think that as a structure itself, the ego isn't really an enemy by any means. It's simply playing its part to show you which part of your own self has lost connection with wholeness, so that awareness and attention can get into that area and start to re-establish integration with wholeness. And that's what awareness does. And so in energy healing, really, the main tool that we use is awareness. And of course, the body's just set up to use that because the body falls ill, starts to experience pain, and pain draws awareness into the area that's feeling the pain. And so the awareness comes, and the awareness is very much it is actually being. It is actually that source of creation material that we have autonomy over to focus it up where we want to focus it. Okay. I know a lot of you have heard this before, I just keep putting it together in different combinations. But the important thing here is that we want to really sink into the ways that this collective, our healing collective, can work with the values, our own personal values, our own ability to experience love and compassion, and how we can cultivate and integrate in that area so that this valuable tool for energy healing can be as useful and accessible and integrated and powerful for each one of us. So that's kind of my intention for this healing session. So let's just take a minute. And I was checking with everyone's hearts and emotional bodies and center of feeling. And of course, we process our feelings in the limbic system, right behind the sinuses, just right in there in the center of the head. All the feelings, including the feelings of compassion and love. So I'm just checking in now, checking in with everyone's sweethearts, sweet or not sweet, or feeling very open or feeling very closed, or whatever condition we find the heart in at any given moment. It's the love in the heart that is the point where the divine shows up within each of us. It's an eternal connection. It doesn't even end when we leave the body. So amazing. It's absolutely beautiful to just focus the awareness in the middle of the chest, in the middle of the heart center. And just focusing awareness there illuminates truth. It illuminates the truth of who you are. The first thing that I see clearing from this area, or that I see illuminate, the first point, which is a blockage to the open flow and the power of compassion in the hearts of each of us, is such a long tradition of deficiency there, a long tradition of feeling that it's appropriate to humble, to be very small. It's appropriate. It's socially acceptable and justifies self-sabotage or self-sacrifice. It's especially that element of justifying self-sacrifice because essentially the first person that we heal is always ourselves. And there's something to be said for a person sacrificing themselves in order to save someone else. And how much of that saving of the other person in the long run ends up being actually valuable if you lose yourself in the process. So if one raises oneself up in the process of helping others, then it's a huge win that is felt at a cosmic level of creation. But if one pulls oneself down while pushing someone else up, the net result is still zero. Centuries, many centuries of ancestors, of cultural conditioning. And when we come across that type of centuries-old conditioning, we find it's sitting in the epigenome. It's sitting systemically spread through the whole body in the field around the DNA. And for some people, I'm noticing, and this is where this gets very interesting for me, because we're in a group. So as I'm saying it, my awareness is flowing to these areas and I'm seeing things. And one of the things I'm seeing is that for all of us in this group, this particular imbalance that I've kind of isolated out, I've kind of pulled it like a little thread, it's like, oh, there's a loose thread right there. I start pulling it out. It's for a lot of people here, it's more in some areas of the body than others. So the area that's given up to sacrifice is more inclined to be some particular area more than another. We save certain areas like, oh, I'm going to protect that part of myself, but oh, that part, it's okay. I can just, cast it to the wolves or whatever. And I'll tell you, for a lot of people, it's in the lower part of the torso area, like the abdomen, lower back, eliminative system, digestive system, lower digestive system. Kind of like a trash can there, it's like, well, that's where all the waste goes. When I was a little girl, cartoons only came out on Saturday mornings. And there weren't a lot of choices of what cartoons you got to watch. There was only one station, if I recall correctly, that played cartoons. And you just watched you got what you got, you know? And when I got older and I had children of my own, I noticed I didn't tend to go back to a lot of those systems or those cartoons. And one of the reasons was I realized that a lot of the humor was very crude. And there was a lot of humor that involved people falling on their backside or getting kicked in their backside or all kinds of things like that. And that was considered quite hilarious by adults. They figured, oh, kids will love this. I mean, as a kid, I watched it. I'm like, that's just so weird. But adults were like, oh, this is fun and kids will love it, you know? Yeah. Cultural conditioning. What is the potential? What is the dignity of that part of the body? Where is its connection to the source of creation? Hips, belly, thighs, buttocks, eliminative system, digestive system, reproductive system. I'm feeling grief releasing from that part of the body. The grief, the feeling, the emotion, it releases from the epigenome. And for those of you who aren't familiar, although some of you I'm sure have been with me here, epigenome being the electromagnetic spectrum that surrounds the DNA and tells the cells how to show up. It's highly responsive to your feelings. We're born with a particular type of epigenome in our body, but every experience that we have throughout our lifetime influences that epigenome and changes it. It cultivates that epigenome to be unique to each one of us. It's highly responsive to your feelings. And it's not that important whether your feelings are positive feelings or negative feelings. What's important is that your consciousness or your awareness is nicely anchored to the source of creation, so that whatever feeling comes up is a useful feeling. It's a feeling that promotes evolution. And sometimes the most evolution promoting feelings are the ones that are not as pleasant, right? Something comes up, it's like, oof, that's not good. I believe we need a change, right? I mean, if everything's groovy, we just keep rolling along as we were. But the minute things are not so good, we are inspired to seek solutions. So, the seeking of solutions is the skill that sets humans in a position or in a relationship with the divine that is really quite beautiful. A lot of beings seek various types of solutions. There are lots of smart beings in this world. They all do to a certain degree. But the way we as humans understand the universe and the penetrative capabilities of our minds and the way we deal with negativity when it arises by using it as an instrument to return the system back to the source of creation, essentially, to reintegrate. It's not that the system, it's not that you lose the details of life on the surface. It's that the details are illuminated by divine source, by the light of being, by the light of human awareness. So problems and situations, challenges, lessons fall into the same category as illnesses in this particular sense. And in energy healing, they're dealt with essentially the same way, that we bring awareness to that issue. We penetrate it with the light of our awareness, which is the light of the divine. And in so doing, we reestablish the connection with wholeness. And when the connection with wholeness is reestablished, whatever lack of refinement is present in the physical form is then given a context in which it can gracefully change. It can gracefully refine. The physical form refines, in this case, the epigenome of the cells, of the organs and the tissues and the structures of our bodies, particularly in the abdominal area. And there's a big energy center there. There's a big Mahamarma in that area, the Basti Mahamarma in the belly. So all this work is kind of, you could say it's kind of radiating forth to the tissues and the structure of the body through that energy center. The heart. The hearts are loving. We're loving our bodies. The heart creates that compassion and mercy that allow the flow of dignity. In this case, dignity is one of the values that is most important for this part of the body. The love and compassion. You know, it's like a nurse who's caring for a patient, and the patient may be laying in a bed in a hospital gown and not feeling terribly dignified. But the nurse treats the patient with dignity and sees the dignity in that soul and realizes that this temporary condition is necessary in order for them to go through their transformation so that they can rise up, they can stand up again, take a shower, put on their clothes, and go and be in their life again in a way that's very dignified. Compassion and dignity together. Recognition. What goes along with dignity is the experience of being heard and recognized. The experience of being heard and recognized. It's very important. And what I see for so many people in this healing session were times in the early childhood where the transition from being, the transition into being heard had its challenges. When people, anytime we start in on some new endeavor, always, people make mistakes. We make mistakes when you try new things. That's just the way it be. And when people are very little, they haven't learned all the rules of polite behavior, polite society. And so little children are inclined sometimes to just let their truth out and let it be known, whatever the case. And sometimes that meets with, it's received well, and sometimes it's not. And it seems that there are enough people in this healing session who encountered a situation where their truth came to the surface and it was not well received. And particularly for those individuals whose truth came to the surface and it was not only not well received, it met with some form of discipline or punishment or something. When it met with punishment, that's really rough. Because what happens if you bring your truth to the surface and it meets with punishment is that it teaches you that your truth is not okay. There's something wrong with truth. There's something wrong with your truth. And in most cases, probably what was happening was the way the truth came to the surface was a little crude. Maybe it wasn't completely refined. Maybe it wasn't completely, cultivated according to the rules of the road at that time. But that's not a reason to punish a child. And so what we do in energy healing is we allow ourselves now as adults to be the adult for that child and to go back and to put the experience in perspective. If the adults in the situation met your truth with punishment, then your job is to go back and say to you, to hold you. We hold our small self in our heart. We hold our small self in our heart, and the compassion flows and the dignity flows and the answer flows. It's not your truth that was wrong. It was just the way it came out. It was just the delivery was a little rough. You can try again, and you can try delivering it in a different way and see how that goes. Your truth is beautiful, and your truth is important to me. And that, I think that's the crux of the healing here, is that our awareness is so fluid, so flexible, right? You can go through space and time like nobody's business. We go back to that little self, and any time, in maybe there are multiple times within the lifetime where your truth came to the surface and it met with some kind of suffering, and met with some kind of response that created suffering. So go back to all those points, and you say to yourself, you feel it. It's not so much like with words. You don't really say it with words. It's more that it comes through the heart. And this is where the compassion starts to make sense in the healing process. It's through your own love. And it's your love. It's your love for truth with a capital T. It's your love for the truth that is the expression of the divine within you, essentially. That your truth is important to me. This truth is important. It's not only meaningful, it's valuable. It's valuable. You are valuable. And the sense of self identity can then reintegrate with the truth, with your truth. What happens when the child speaks the truth and it meets with a punishment is that the sense of who one is, the sense of self-identity, starts to separate from the truth. And it's such a wounding. It's such a wounding for the heart, right? And so this healing session, this time that we're in right now, is to go back to that little self and say, your truth is valuable to me. I need the truth in you. I need you in your truth. I need you. I love you in your truth. You're beautiful in your truth. And you are your truth. That truth with a capital T, that great divine truth, that cosmic truth, that universal truth of all creation is your truth. And it is you. It is me. It is my truth and it is me. And I am here because of that. And I'll tell you that your presence, the presence of your awareness right now with yourself in the past as a little person is deeply comforting. The compassion, the respect, the recognition that you feel is acknowledged and appreciated. And sometimes little people, they don't, especially the little boys, they don't, if an experience is really deep, it's like a really deep emotional experience or a really big emotional experience, they're not inclined to bring that to the surface and say thank you. You might not get a big old thank you big hug and kiss. Thank you. You might end up getting a very deep shift, a very deep shift in the heart, a deep, healthy shift in the heart. So sweet.